The Captain's Log Radio, with your host, Captain Jonathan Moss.
Hey, welcome to the Captain's Log Radio. This is our Tackle Box Tip segment presented by Icon Coolers. I'm Captain Jonathan Moss, and with me today I've got Scott Hennet with me, a good friend and a fly fish fanatic when it comes to chasing exotics, really any fish on fly. But today we're going to focus in on exotics in South Florida, and we're going to talk about our top 3 flies that we choose when we go south to chase these exotics. Peacock bass, cichlids, whether it be Mayan or an Oscar or the Midas, and then some Jaguars. Scott, what are your 3 flies, man?
Hey, good question. When you and me and Brian go down there, we usually fill our tackle boxes and our fly boxes up with more than we can even carry. But, we always talk about the flies that we used, what caught what, and it always comes down to just a couple out of the fly box that work across the board. And the first one is the Schminnow. And I still think it's one of the best flies to use anywhere in Florida. If you only had one fly to use, that would be the one I'd recommend. But down in South Florida, everything will take it. And that's a standard size Schminnow. I have developed what's called a Schmicro, which is a Schminnow that is less than half its typical size for smaller cichlids down there. But a Schminnow will catch everything down there, peacocks. I even took a tarpon in a canal that was 12 miles away from the ocean on one. So the Schminnow is my number 1 favorite. Second favorite.
Oh, let me interrupt you real quick. I've caught tarpon, snook, bass, specks or crappie. I've caught speckled sea trout, all on Schminnows. It's a great fly. Very easy to tie. Not a ton of materials. Very, very easy. And I like to throw a number 2 size hook for the Schminnow. And most of the flies I'm tying are with that number 2, but you can go smaller, and you need to go smaller. If I'm going for peacock bass, I'm throwing that size 2. If I'm going for tarpon and snook, that size 2. If I'm going for the cichlids, we're going smaller because I think they have a mouth like a bluegill. What size fly hook do you like for those smaller fish?
Oh, smaller than that, I'll go to a 10 or a 12 sometimes, and I'll tie them with sparkle braid instead of like a chenille. And something in that size range for some of the, a lot of times they just are not as aggressive. And if they're pulling back on the aggression, sometimes a smaller fly will do the job.
Yes.
My number 2 fly I like down there is the Clouser. I have taken my biggest peacocks on bright colored Clousers against black bucktail. They work, they sink fast, they dive into them holes quickly. You can pop them up and almost jig them. It elicits the reaction that you want from those fish. And of course, everything in the world, thinks it's just a fish that they like to eat. So it's a good one to have in your fly box. All sizes for me. 2/0 Clousers for peacocks are the size.
Are you putting a dumbbell eyes on it? And if yes, what size?
I am. What you have right there in your left hand is the size I like to go with. Remember that sometimes when that fly hits the water, you want it down in the water column where they're sitting fast. You want to anger them, especially those big peacocks, quickly. And that was the story that you were telling before is if you let them cool off even for a second, it'll be twice as hard to take them. So get it down there as fast as possible. The larger the dumbbell eye, the better.
So I like to have a variety of sizes. I'll tie some in a small size, the medium, and the large. I need to get deeper faster, then I'm going to grab those large size. And I go back and forth. I like having the chartreuse eyes, but man, sometimes just the plain non-painted ones, get the job done. Because after you catch a few fish, anyways, the paint gets knocked off because they hit it so hard. So the
Right.
first one we got the Schmitto. The second one is the Clouser. Was number three.
Yep. My third one is a spider fly. Anything that swims in fresh water will hit a slow sinking spider fly with a good set of legs hanging off of it. Not the real droopy legs and not the real stiff legs, but there are some legs that you can get. They almost look like a computer cable. You know what I'm talking about? They come in that nice long strand. You peel them off, you tie them in. They seem to have the right flexibility and they stick out there and they just kind of bob as they're sinking. You give it a quick little twitch and they like to, it's party heaven down there when you've got the right spider fly. And if they won't come to the surface, so I don't tie them on like sponge bodies. Again, we'll use like a sparkle braid. Sometimes I'll use like a peacock chenille wrapped around a hurl just to create that little fuzzy body. Throw it in there, let it sink, and it usually draws attraction from all shores.
Hmm. If I had to add one more, if I had to add one more fly to this mix, because these are top notch. These are going to catch you fish if you go to South Florida. The
I know
only
what you're going to say.
the only extra fly I'm going to add is a gurgler.
Gurgler.
And here's why. Scott had mentioned it. There are places where you can go and you're chasing these exotics and you'll catch bluegill, you'll catch bass as well. You'll catch gar, there's plenty of gar down there. You might catch a bowfin. Some people call them mudfish. You might see these fish around, but you might also see tarpon and snook around. And if you see them laid up or rolling around some structure and you're able to throw that gurgler, which is a foam-based fly, so it floats, excuse me, and it's got a lip in the front of it to really bloop, make some noise like a popper. Bloop. The other part of that, here's some foam right here. I like some thicker foam. I don't like to go too light, too thin. I want to say this is like 3 mil because if it's too thin, then it will fold back on itself. And I don't like that. I want it to be stiff so that it pushes water. But what I like about that gurgler is I can manipulate it. I can pop it, but only move it a couple of inches. And here's why that's important. You're keeping it in the zone. Okay. You're not casting something and then having to strip it fast to keep it higher up in the zone where they're looking or kind of rolling or laid up. You can pop it around that mangrove or around that lily pad or around whatever structure they're on and keep it in that zone. And that's why I want to have that gurgler. It's going to create that reaction bite. It's going to be explosive and you can keep it where that fish is a little bit longer to hopefully generate that strike to get them annoyed and they come up and eat it. Yes? What do you think?
That's really what encompasses basically all the flies in our fly boxes when we go down there are those four flies. But yes, the gurgler would be a top pick. Part of those flies right there are probably most of them are in the top five for all live fish in Florida.
Yeah, yeah, love it. Good stuff, man. Really good stuff. And truthfully, these flies are very easy to tie. The most difficult one would be the spider. Typically, as we're using a little bitty hooks. I've got my hooks up here to the left of me, so you've probably seen me looking up there, and I can't reach them unless I stand up. And I don't think I have any more of those small hooks left. But really, truthfully, these flies are very easy to tie, to fish, and honestly, they're cost effective. You can buy a bunch of material and tie 1,000 of them. And there are tons of local fly shops that you can go into and say, hey, I want to learn how to do this. It's a resource. Or you can head over to flyfishfla.com. There's going to be resources there as well for you to learn how to tie these flies and the flies that we pick for several different scenarios and fishing in the state of Florida.
Yeah, for sure. I would have to add to that I had figured out while tying those little spider flies that if you use almost like a nymph hook, like Tiemco's got a couple of hooks like this that have a progressive bend down to that nice curved little hook, because it'll drop that hook a little further down into the water while the spider pattern itself is sitting more above it. So as the fish come up from underneath to see what that is, it exposes that hook to that fish a lot sooner. So if there's a short strike to it, you still got that fish.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Let me just take a look. Yeah, see, what the problem is I tied a bunch of those flies and I got annoyed by them, and I haven't bought any hooks since I ran out because they are pain to tie.
They are, but they're worth every moment spent tying them.
Absolutely. Well, hey, listen, top 3 flies with a bonus 4th. You're heading down to South Florida to chase exotics. Scott, thanks so much for being here, buddy. Great stuff. I'm Captain Jonathan Moss. This is the Captain's Log Radio and our Tackle Box Tip segment presented by Icon Coolers. We'll see you guys next time.
Thanks for listening to the Captain's Log Radio with your host, Captain Jonathan Moss.